Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Crime and Entertainment. I am Hollywood Wade, your host, here with a close friend of mine, Tommy Greco. Tommy, how are you, my friend?
I'm good, brother. Thanks for having me on.
Now, look, you've got a very interesting story. You're a owner of a club. What is it, about 2 decades now this club's been open?
Almost 17 years.
Almost 17 years. So closing in on 2 decades of the Ritz in Manhattan. But there's a backstory to the club. First, before we get into the club, let's talk a little bit about you. Tell our audience, give us a little primer here. Who is Tommy Greco? A little bit about the club, and then we'll kind of work our way forward and figure out how you got into running this particular club here.
Yeah, I mean, that's a loaded question, right? I was born and raised in northern Jersey in Bergen County and in Park Ridge. Graduated from high school, went to college in the early 90s up in Hartford, Connecticut. I was a finance econ major. Basically, bartended my way through college. That's how I paid for it. And like I said, I studied finance, economics, but bartended, then started promoting the college parties at the clubs. I grew right outside of Manhattan, right over the bridge, and got hooked up with a lot of party promoters. So when it came time to like night before Thanksgiving, New Year's Eve, stuff like that, I ran like the Hartford College sub list at some of these big clubs like the Mirage and Envy and stuff that's not even around, like the Limelight and stuff like that. And how I got into the gay bar aspect is the busy night up in New England was Sunday night. That was the gay night because a lot of the hair salons and stuff were closed on Monday. So that was the night to go out. And all the clubs would then cater to that genre because it was a slow night and now it turned into a Saturday night, you know?
All right.
So as a bartender, I fought like hell and got that shift and hung on to it with dear life because that one shift paid for everything. I walked out of school with very little debt, you know. But I maintained all that scene, everybody in, friends with that, all the people I was promoting in the straight genre. I just had friends everywhere. And then moved to New York, pursued my career in finance as a trader, still hung on to the bartending shifts because this way I wasn't making money in the beginning. I could still go out, drink and party for free and get paid for it, And so one thing led to another. My brother had opened up a restaurant down in the West Village. And I started helping him out there. Then the internet bubble burst in March of 2000 and kind of saw the writing on the wall with that, and happy I never gave up my nightlife gigs. Then went up into Hell's Kitchen right around that time, 2000, 99, 2000, helped my brother open up a bar called Posh, which was a neighborhood gay bar. And I kind of took it over and ran it for 5 years, just identifying, people and who was cool and made it like this big melting pot, not just gay, straight, just where everybody kind of got their groove. And in like '05, I left. And 2006, I opened up the Ritz. I kind of had a fight with the guy. So to stick it to my brother, I opened up 4 blocks away from him, triple his size, to try to wipe him off the earth. Family love in the Italian world, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I had that built-in crowd, and then I opened it up, and there was a lot of things I wanted to do, like with a bigger space and better programming. And then it just kind of took off, thank God, like a wounded bear.
Yeah, and it kind of caught fire. And I mean, well, let's start. That's kind of gives the audience a baseline of who you are, what this episode is going to be about. So let's go back to the beginning. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Park Ridge, New Jersey, North Jersey, right on the New York State border by like Rockland County, right there.
Okay. And like, so what was early life like for you in school? And did you have aspirations, early on? Like, some people have dreams of being a firefighter or whatever. Did you kind of have a knack for like, business? A lot of people that tend to open up bars or anything cash business, regardless of what it may be, sometimes in their early life, they already kind of have that onset of selling stuff or whatever, like something to kind of pave that way. Was that the case with you or not so much?
Well, I'm a worker. As some people say, everybody's a good work ethic. I'm a doer. You know what I
Right.
mean? I go in. I'm the type of guy that goes in, gets my hands dirty. We ain't leaving till the job's finished. Whether I was collecting shopping carts at ShopRite or working at the pizzeria next to my high school, Mark's, scrubbing floors, whatever I had to do to get paid, basically. And I guess I had an entrepreneurial spirit, and I implemented that type of work ethic, that do or die, no, there's no room for failure attitude. But I grew up, I was born in 75, but I grew up in the 80s.
Right.
And, Flash, Big. I mean, look at like Deion Sanders currently. I mean, I grew up watching this guy play and show up with gold chains and cell phones. And I was like, I want that.
Oh, yeah. No, Deion was there wasn't, I don't think any kid watching sports at the time that idolized to be it football or baseball, really. And especially a guy that could do both as well as he did. And, he's making the headways now because obviously he's coaching, Colorado in the NCAA. But those clips that are starting to come out, and he's like, I'm a winner. I win everywhere I've gone. And he did. I mean, by and large, outside of Atlanta, which was hard to do, back in those days where he got drafted. But even then, like, he set the tone for DBs to start making money. Like, they weren't making the kind of money they were making until Deion got to that league. And I think there was a story where they said that, and it might even have been the Giants, they were picking like 7th or something like that, or 8th, 9th, somewhere along in there. Like, not top, but, lower mid. Yeah. And they give him like a playbook that's like, this thick. And it's like, here, memorize this playbook, and then we'll get back to you in a week. And he told him, he was like, when do y'all pick? He said he was like 8th. He's like, he just slid it back to him. And he's like, I'll be gone by then.
Yeah.
That was his confidence. And that's his confidence today, as anybody can see on ESPN. So no, I can totally see how that would just drive someone to want to do all that. Now I got a question. How long gone were the days of Studio 54 at this time? And did you ever hear any of the stories about that coming up? Because like, if I could go back to one time period, I would have loved to have went to Studio 54 in its heyday. And it seems like a little bit that might have been what you're kind of recreating here with the Ritz.
Yeah. So I heard all the stories about Studio 54. I have a lot of interesting friends. My buddy Randy Jones is a good friend of mine who's the cowboy of the Village People. Mm-hmm. Tells me a lot of stories. And my mother's best friend, she dated him in high school, and such close, we called him Uncle Sam. His name was Sam Parisi. He was the general manager of the Red Parrot Club, which was like the competition to Studio 54. Mm-hmm. And if you get alone with Uncle Sam for a little while, he'll tell you some stuff that makes your head spin. But so kind of that, what I wanted to create with the Ritz was, it wasn't just a business. And you have to understand, I was 29. I held my 30th birthday party at my club. So I was young, I was on fire. I just, I was ready to take whatever risks I had to do. So I created an environment, gay, straight, it didn't really matter. What I saw most was people in the service industry, either in the theater industry and whatever. You have your friends. Half of them are gay, half of them are straight. And then it came time to go out. All right, we'll go to a straight Irish bar, but we're not really that comfortable. Or we'll go to a gay club, and these guys aren't that comfortable, but everybody's hanging out because they want to be with their friends. Because that's how I went out. We go here, we go there. I wanted to create something that you just went out. I don't fucking care who you slept with or what you did and whatever. You're out to throw down and have a good time,
right?
And that's the atmosphere we created. I mean, come on, you gave a nightclub to be run by a kid, so it was going to go down.
And so how did you go from finance into that? Because you said you graduated, you went into finance. What were you doing, stocks, or what?
I was trading stocks. So, I was, this is I graduated high school in 94 and went. So we were still in that weird time. And then right when I was just a numbers guy. And right when I was coming out of school is when the market started catching fire.
Mhm.
All the tech companies and internet and all that started booming. And I kind of chased it, just like kids who got out during real estate booms started chasing that. And you get wrapped up in that hype. And it wasn't like I saw that as that was my end game. I just saw it as a launching pad to maybe go into something different,
Right.
to get paid and to do my own thing.
Now, did you enjoy the finances? I mean, like, did you get a rush out of it?
In the beginning, you come from college and now you're on Wall Street and things are going crazy and moving and you're seeing all this cash and people partying. And then once you get into it, it's like, whether I'm selling stocks, vacuum cleaners, or cars, it's all I felt like. I'm just a salesman.
Right.
And, I was there. And if you sold, you're the best. If you didn't sell, you're the worst. They were just pushing people up to the front lines to see who could do the best.
And you were doing some of this at the same time, right? You were bartending yourself and trading stocks for a period?
Yes. Yeah. So in the very beginning, you're on a stipend. So I had to bartend and stuff. And I was working down in Tribeca. I was bartending in the West Village, and it was great. I was meeting so many people. And then here you go on Monday back to this box and you're like, this isn't me. And then for a minute, I stopped bartending because I started making a few bucks. And then that got wiped away, went back right into it. And I said, this is where I belong. I need to feel and touch people. I don't need to call people on the phone and try to sell them something,
Right.
Yeah.
So what was the landscape like in those days in the bars? I mean, because New York, if nobody's ever been, that's a place to where you can really bump into celebrities quite often. And it's just, I'm from South Carolina, which actually the town that I'm in Charleston. So it's on the coast. And we do get a lot of celebrities that visit here. Some have houses here that stay in some of the more, higher echelon islands that we have here, like John's Island and, the beaches. But it's still few and far between meeting a celebrity. What was like your first interaction with meeting someone, of a high profile status in some of these bars? Who was the first one you seen?
I mean, like I said, I grew up right outside Manhattan. So, I started going to the Tunnel, which was a big underground nightclub in the early, I was like a junior in high school, So I saw a lot of people. I mean, there's so many to mention. I mean, just in my own club at the Ritz, so many guys have just walked in and you start talking to just out of nowhere. We had Mary J. Blige walk in like a couple months ago. I'm just at the bar, and then all of a sudden, here comes this little fur coat of fire coming in, and I'm like, wait a minute. And then you hear everybody going nuts. I was like, is Mary J. Blige in the back? And they said, yep. We had Madonna, about 4 or 5 years when we opened. Friend called and said, hey, Madonna wants to rent out your second floor for her personal trainer's birthday party. I said, sure, whatever. You know what I mean? I said, no. I said, yeah, well, I'm at the club, whatever. And people started coming. We reserved it. I said, she's not coming. Lo and behold, she rolls up the stairs into the club. And I told this to a friend of mine. It was the only celebrity, I've met so many of them, that had like a glow, like a presence around them. And I was like, I get it. And I have to say, Madonna, she was the nicest person, thanking me for having her. I'm like, lady, set fire to my place. Do whatever you want. You're Madonna.
Yeah, burn the damn thing down for crying.
Yeah. But we had a lot of, and then then reality TV hit, and then you had all those people, like people from the Jersey Shore used to come in all the time. But like A listers, like Madonna, Lady Gaga used to blow into the place a bunch. Jennifer Hudson. I mean, it's huge. But then even when you're in the city, you go out. Like I used to go down to Tribeca because I worked at a French restaurant. Across the street from where I worked was a place called Edwards. We used to go there after and drink. all the Sopranos used to go there and hang out. So James Gandolfini grew up in the same town I grew up, Park Ridge.
Wow.
So they named the main street after him, Gandolfini Way. But you used to go in there and see them all there and just hanging out, in the middle of this little tiny little bar in Tribeca. Very odd.
Wow. And that's something that I would have. I mean, I'm a fan. Sopranos is like my top TV show of all time.
Yeah.
I'll rewatch it at least once a year with the wife. And since I've been doing this podcast, I've been doing it for a couple of years now. I've been fortunate enough to have about 6 or so guys on from the show. I had Robert Fanara on, Dan Grimaldi, who was in there from the second season all the way to the end. I had Georgie, who played the bartender that pretty much just got the hell beat out of him for about 3 or 4 seasons. I had Lilo Brancato on, John Fiore, who played Gigi, and they all tell these stories of just how close they were. They were like their own little, family off that set. And it just seems like I can see those guys just in a bar hanging out because largely at that time, I mean, Gandolfini had a few things up under his belt, but he was nowhere near the star he was after he, played Tony Soprano. And a lot of those guys, were known, but they weren't of that level. And Sopranos just catapulted all those guys into a different stratosphere.
Well, so we we closed at 4 a.m. I had a very good friend. He owned a very famous after hours place called Siberia. It started off in the subway station in Midtown, and then he moved it to a location. And you'd go there at 4, 5, 6 in the morning after we closed. I'd go there, and Michael Imperioli would be there hanging out. Jimmy Fallon. This is when he was in Saturday Night Live,
right?
And just hanging out. But they would be there on the regular because it was such a speakeasy type place. They knew they were safe and whatever. And the owner, Tracy, was just a maniac. So everybody knew Tracy. But like you had these little moments in time where, for 6 months, I'm going to after hours and I'm hanging out with these types of people. And then, things change and, patterns change. But it's, that's the cool thing about New York.
Oh, and I love New York, man. Like I said, since doing this, I've visited up there quite a bit. And like, you're never going to, unless you want to, you can go up there multiple times and do something different every time. I mean, the possibilities and the clubs are endless. And it's one of my favorite places to go. I'm actually coming back up there in a week. Mike Tyson, Michael Francis, and Chaz Palminteri's doing a speaking engagement at the Beacon Theater. And I'm going up there for that. So
it's right on the Upper West Side, right there. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, the nightlife up there, like coming from a town in South Carolina, like you have a lot of bars, but then you have a few bars that do well. Is it hard in that scene because you have so many options in New York to make a bar, like the Ritz? How hard is that to make a statement in New York to where this is people want to come, regardless of the genre or the demographic that you're catering to?
So there's a couple factors. I mean, one, it's just luck. I mean, you know what I mean? You got the look and the feel and the energy. That's one. Two, there's a lot of places that fail because, in the rap songs, when they say don't get high on your own supply, that a lot of these places go out of business because the owner now that's become part of his social life. And it's a lifestyle business and not a business. And listen, don't get me wrong. The first 5 years we were open at the Ritz, I mean, I was drinking every night, but because I had to keep the energy going. But benefit by being a straight, guy running a gay nightclub, I wasn't there trying to hook up and, you know what I mean? And that kind of kept it in check. And we always kid around. I kid around with a lot of people. I said, that's why all gay men should own strip clubs and all straight guys should own gay bars. Because, this way there's no monkey business with the staff. They all looked at me as like the big brother or the dad figure because, they trusted. There was no motivation. I'm not trying to sleep with anybody. I'm genuinely here because I hired you because I believe in you as the right person, not because you know this person or you fall in favor or I'm sleeping with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
It was everybody was hired for a specific reason. So, I still have staff there from the day I opened. 17 years. And the nightlife industry is crazy, not just because people bump around, but people get caught up and
Mm-hmm.
they fall off. But we've had interventions with people and said, listen, you're our guy and you've been with the family a long time. Let's get it together. And a lot of the times they straighten their act because they want to stay. So I mean, that's the secret, is that you have to, if it's a business, you have to treat it like a business.
Right.
And you also have to preach hospitality. Sometimes people go in too business oriented and they're not, you got to make everybody feel welcome.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, that's an interesting spin on that, because it makes perfect sense, because you don't get caught up, like you said, in the mix. Because how many times in the world, or TV or television or whatever, the manager is, sleeping with one of the cocktail waitresses or something like that. It's a recipe for disaster in a business like that. But you are, a straight man, married man, and to run a gay club, that really does put things into perspective to where you're about business. You don't have any of the other shenanigans that's going on. And that really does eliminate a lot of that. So that's a very cool concept.
I lived above the club. So, we had the brownstone and the apartment. It's like the birdcage. And
Right.
my son, who's now 10, he grew up sitting in the living room watching SpongeBob because it's like a big open loft. And I have the whole room filled with drag queens and go-go boys and DJs doing the nighttime meeting. You know what I mean? And my kid and my wife's there cooking dinner, you know? So yeah, I'm happy that my son grew up that way, because he now understands. He doesn't let people cloud his judgment. He's like his dad, where you accept people for who they are and their actions,
Right.
not for what their labels are or anything like that. And that's and my son's name is Rocco, so we're not Irish.
Well,
So
let's touch on that for a minute. Did you have any sort of pushback or anything when you decided to open up this club from anybody you knew, or, the people in the area? Because, don't get me wrong, there are those people that are just going to have a problem with it. But then also, New York is about money. Like there's stories to where mob bosses who, obviously is that sort of thing is, frowned upon in their circles, but at the same time, they're backing businesses like the one you're running because it makes money. So
yeah.
did you meet any sort of pushback from anyone?
Yeah, so when I first was doing construction, the Ritz is on what they call Restaurant Row,
Yeah.
46th Street, for between 8th and 9th Avenue. It's all restaurants, a lot of old families. And I went in there, I took over this comedy club, and I put paper on the windows, doing construction. And they found out that it was going to be a gay club, and they had building inspectors every day coming. And I just plowed through, got it open. And literally, these people wouldn't look at me when they walked past me on the sidewalk. Then I opened up, saw how beautiful and clean it was. Then saw my clientele, all these, very good looking guys, very affluent, coming to the block. And then all of a sudden, they started patronizing all their restaurants to eat before they went to the club. So I went to like the most hated man on the street to the freaking mayor. They were,
Yeah.
how you doing? Why don't you come in for dinner? Can we get you? Want to borrow some ice?
Because, and that's something that's overlooked, because when you have a great night spot, things around that are going to benefit from that, be it an all night pizzeria, whatever the case may be. Things around a spot like that are all going to flourish and benefit and see an influx of traffic and revenue. So I always think that's like, people think some of that stuff's bad, but like you take, for instance, the famous hit on Paul Castellano, it happened in front of Spark Steakhouse. After that, Spark Steakhouse went through the roof, and they interviewed another guy that owned one. He was like, I wish they'd have killed him in front of my store, because that guy's made a killing since then.
Yeah. And it's funny, Sparks is on 46th Street on the other end, on the east side.
Yeah.
But yeah, it went from it was a complete ripple effect, like you said, and they really appreciated because it added life to which used to be just a tourist kind of trap street. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Kind of how Mulberry Street became, and now it's changing back because you got some, real heavy hitter restaurateurs going in there that says, I'm doing a cool restaurant and I want that Mulberry Street address, not how it used to be guys hawking you off the street, come eat, come eat, come eat.
Yeah.
Uh, so, and it's gone through a renaissance. I mean, New York City's in a little bit of a funky place right now. I guess the world is. So we're in a cycle, but I believe that, it's New York. I mean, you can't, there's only so many places in the world where people can classily tell you to go screw yourself.
Oh yeah. This matter of fact, June of this year, my son's 14, and I've been up there, like I said, a couple times in the past. And more recently, a lot in the last few years, and he's never been with me. And he was like, I want to go check it out. So it was before school started back, so we went up there, and it was the first of, I want to say June. It was the beginning of Pride Month.
Okay.
So I think that's June, right?
June, yes.
Yeah, and I mean that wasn't planned. It just happened to be. We come up there, I think that weekend, and it led into it. And we were right there at Times Square, and I mean it was unlike anything I'd ever seen. I mean they were going all out. And the one thing I noticed was like, obviously this world, like you said, it's different right now. There's a lot of things wrong with the world, but I didn't see as much like pushback against it as I thought I would. Like it was very open, and New York has that way about it. It's like I tell my wife, I was like, it's busy. It has a lot of people, but everybody's doing their own thing, and they really don't give a fuck what you're doing. Like
Nope.
this group of people can be doing their thing over here. They're not going to bother them because this guy has something to do over here. Everybody's there getting the fuck to where they want to be. They don't really give a shit what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, you know why? Because the rent is due every month, and you better figure out how to pay it.
Exactly. And we hit the Stardust Diner. I'm sure you've probably been to
Yeah,
that
yeah,
before.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The singing diner. Yeah.
Oh man, they were going crazy in there. It was unlike anything I'd ever seen. And I mean, it was a really good time. And I don't know. I love New York. And next time I come down there, I'm gonna swing by and check out this club. Since you took it over, y'all have actually shot TV shows in there too. What, like Law and Order, I think?
We did Law and Order. We've done Love and Hip Hop. We did Ice and Coco did a thing there when they had their little reality show going. I've had a ton of music videos done in there.
Who was some of the music videos?
A lot of LGBT stars. What's his name? Ari. I can't remember his name. Adam Joseph, Caswell. A lot of people like that have shot their videos there. But it's a you'll see when you come, it's a very interesting place. It's a giant melting pot.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, nobody cares in the city. Everybody's too busy doing their thing to sit back and pay attention to these details. I figure that, when you're in these smaller areas where people have time, they start to like nitpick on stuff.
Yeah.
I guess that's what makes the larger city great, because you gotta go from point A to point B and make sure you pay C and you're all good.
Yeah. 100%. What is like you've had this now for 17 years, you said. What is your goals going forward? Is it to grow this one? Have you thought about, opening a secondary location elsewhere? What is your plans here going forward?
So there can only be one Ritz,
Right.
and not just because my place is great. There can only be one Ritz for a legal reason. So
Okay.
I opened up Ritz Bar and Lounge, and we'll just say there's a particular hotel brand that wasn't too fond of that.
Mm-hmm.
And some back and forth, and we dug up some stuff about them where it wasn't too favorable for them. And make a long story short, they're a much bigger dog than I will ever be.
Right.
They made a deal. They said, so you can continue to run and operate your bar. We'll go our way. You go your way. But just make sure we don't see Ritz West Hollywood, Ritz Miami, Ritz Chicago. And I said, sure, no problem. I can come up with a different name.
Yeah. Yeah. If you do it, you're going to have to do a secondary name.
The ultimate goal is it's a great brand. I mean, I've explored other options in the hospitality business. In Bergen County, North Jersey, I currently opened up a place called Pop Empanada. So it's a pop from meaning pop art. So collect a lot of pop art, a lot of Keith Haring and stuff like that. And we make these handmade empanadas, Cuban sandwiches, which is great. And then at night we do like a supper club, Michelin style tasting menu on 2 nights a week. And that's a brand that we came here to Jersey to do, perfect, get it down. And I think we're going to start launching that in New York City, hopefully near the club. Just like you said before, where you would have like a late night dining spot and the ripple effect, you know, that's kind of what I want to do next near NYU or Columbia or something like that. Because if you know, I don't have much hair, and running a nightclub kind of killed a lot of those follicles, late night phone calls and this and that. It's just, you know, but it's going strong. I'm super proud of it. And, you know, we've launched also a lot of careers in the drag entertainment world. I mean, a bunch of RuPaul's Drag Race winners have come from my club. You know, we used to have a Sunday show with which now an actress, Bridget Everett, who's on the HBO show. She did a Sunday night show there with her band and everything. And, you know, a lot of people, you know, Bianca Del Rio, who's a big famous drag queen, had a Monday night show with us for about 8 years. And some people on Broadway used to be with us. So it's a cool launching pad now, sitting this many years back and looking at where they have gone to is pretty cool, you know?
Yeah. And that's something that, you know, you can look back and I'm sure be proud of, because you help, you know, kind of be the launching pad for some of these careers. We've talked a little bit about the highs of running this. I mean, what is some of the lows like? And when I say lows, I mean this in like the frustrating part, because anybody that owns a business knows that there's a lot of headaches behind the scenes, be it, you know, keeping personnel, having them coming in, you know, do you have a lot, you know, what's security like, things like that? What's some of the headaches in running, you know, your business?
So there's a lot of lows. I mean, there is a lot of lows. There's a lot of people out there, you know, you're open to the public. I'm 100 yards from Times Square.
Right.
Anyone can walk through my doors, you know, obviously of age. And
yeah, let's clarify that.
But, you know, you get people who, you know, take drugs or something. And, you know, I'm not, you know, what they do, and they come in or they hurt themselves, or they, you know, they overindulge, not in liquor and something they might have done before. People have fallen, things have broken. You know, unfortunately with New York City, they have some weird laws. So they had like a lot of crime. There's a lot of theft, you know, and a bunch of years ago, almost 10 years ago, there was these organized thieves, and they would go in, especially to gay bars, because, you know, people would indulge, and they would take their cell phones and they would steal their smartphones. And, you know, a cell phone is much more than $500, like $1,000. That's considered grand larceny. So when they report that their phone is missing or stolen, they could have lost or whatever, to fill out a police report, you get a record of grand larcenies happening at a particular address. And then you go up on the hit stale, you know, and then the city runs a multi-agency task force against you. And one time they came at me so hard, they shut the club for about 5 days, for a week. You know, I had to go to court, get an injunction, get it back open. Nothing that we were doing bad as operators,
right?
But lightning kept hitting us, and, you know, thank God we had a sympathetic judge. And at the time, there was someone involved in law enforcement who wasn't very kindly to the LGBT community. They're no longer with the NYPD. This is a decade ago, so I can talk about it.
Mhm.
But it was intimidating. A person of power like that, you're just a businessman. And I'm not doing anything there that besides running this business. So that, dealing with that and seeing something that you have your life investment in and you work 7 days a week on being shuttered and you now have to fight to get it open. I had to fight for, to be accepted, to be there and to be in the industry and to get a business going and, keeping the lights on and the licensing. And then, then we go into, I spoke about this with a friend the other day about Superstorm Sandy. Half of New York didn't have power. 34th Street down to the Battery was dark. I was lucky enough that we had power. I had people filing in during Sandy. I was running extension cords. It wasn't even a club. It was like a shelter. That was a weird time for a few days. And then again, COVID, I'm just happy that I'm on a podcast. I'm on with you because, there was a lot of dark times where, they were opening up restaurants for takeout and delivery. I'm a nightclub, man. They're not going to get on a crowded dance floor again. Are you crazy?
Yeah.
I thought we were done. And so I put the drag shows out on the sidewalk. Hey, what are you going to do? You got it. They looked at me and the cops, like, they didn't care. They said, you got to make money,
Yeah. No, I bet that COVID I think, like I said, where I'm from, obviously it crippled businesses around my town, but somewhere around New York that literally thrives on the tourists and the money that they come there and spend for the bars and stuff. That had to be a brutal, scary time.
I stood in Times Square with my son on his scooter, and we were the only ones in the middle of the day in Times Square. It was the creepiest thing. It was like the movie with Will Smith.
That's what I was about to say. That's like some I Am Legend shit right there.
There was nothing there. I had videos of my kid literally jumping his scooter right in the middle of Times Square on the street. There wasn't a car to be had. There was no one around. People were literally locked in their houses and, going, just getting food. And it was a disaster. But whatever, we banged it through and we're here now. And hopefully we've learned a little bit from it.
Yeah, 100%. What were you at we just had the anniversary passing here of 9/11. Where were you at and what were you doing when 9/11 hit, just out of curiosity?
Interesting story. When 9/11 happened, I actually was staying in Hoboken, which is right across the water.
Mm-hmm.
And I was still in finance. And I had accepted a new position down in the North Tower with a company called MJ Bruderman Company. And it's a small stock firm. And I had gone out, and it was on the 18th floor, and everybody that, if I was there, everybody got out fine. Just want to state that. But I had gone out with a whole bunch of mutual fund companies because you sell their product, they take out the dinner, they get you loaded. Thank you very much. And it was in Jersey. I stayed in Hoboken at my friend's place, which I was like living in a little bit because it was a time when I was couch surfing between girlfriends and buddies. So I was staying there, and I was late, and I literally saw that second plane hit and saw them, literally the ferries coming back with people just covered. And they had the Hoboken, Jersey City, and Weehawken Fire Department just sitting there hosing these people down as they came off. And that's where I was. And then what I did during that time was, as I said, my brother had a restaurant on Hudson and West 11th. And literally it was closed from 14th Street. All of Manhattan was just closed. And then it went down a little more and a little more and a little more. And he finally was able to open. That was another tough time. I mean, I wasn't an owner operator, but just seeing it through what he had to go through. And, I'm saying what we experienced. I don't want to seem like I'm being selfish of the
Right.
families that lost people. I couldn't even imagine, but it was an eerie time in New York. Just the smell in the air. It smelled like an electrical fire anywhere you were in the city. And yeah, that's where I was. And when every year, September 11th, like we just had passed, I don't, I do the reverse. Everyone says never forget. I try to forget about that day. I mean, I'm never going to forget it, but I don't want to think about being in that day, because it was the first time in my life when I was standing there, didn't know what happened. And then you hear all the cabs that comes over on the radio. It's like I got weak in my legs. Like, wow, we're being attacked.
Yeah.
That was the feeling I got. So, yeah.
And
Thanks for bringing it away.
Sorry. Well, I mean, the thing is, and it's definitely nothing to, scoff at, because it's something that I think everyone needs to remember. And I know the saying is never forget. And I was in college at the time, and I remember watching that on TV and it just having such an impact on me, because that was the first time that me in my life, like I was Desert Storm. It was, somewhat of a war, but it wasn't like an attack on America. And this was like my first experience of that we were vulnerable as, a country. And I can't imagine actually being there, being in New York, because I never went to New York while the towers were standing. So I never got a chance to see them in person, but I know they were intimidating buildings.
Powerful building, 2 buildings.
Yeah.
My father was a union electrician. He's retired, but he was involved in when they were building everything. He was a first responder to the first bombing of the Trade Center.
Yeah, 93.
He was there, and then he was semi-retired, and they called him back after 9/11 to help them restore power, because he was one of the foremen. So he knew all the original lines of power and everything, things that they did for, Chase back in the day, and Morgan Stanley when they ran all this type of power and electric. This is when you actually had to go to the stock exchange, and down, and all of down by the Battery. So, a lot of conversations with him and things, just unbelievable.
Yeah. To get back on the club here, what is especially nowadays, because I know back in those days, people didn't have the benefit of social media and ways to advertise. A lot of it was by word of mouth. Nowadays, with the, Instagram, TikToks, Facebooks, those are the biggest, and which, some of them, you can pay and supposedly go out to a bigger audience. But just far as a base platform, it's great for businesses to be able to advertise their place, their product, their brand, whatever the case may be. Podcast, in my instance, the Ritz and yours. How big of an impact has that played in getting the word out about your club? Because not only can you tell people about it, but you can include pictures and, descriptions of what's going on. Has social media been a big asset to you in helping advertise the Ritz?
Absolutely. It totally leveled the playing field, where you didn't have this behemoth with huge, deep pockets to buy advertising. Mm-hmm. It's free. Yes, you can promote ads, and we do that too. But back in the day, it was expensive, and I used to have to run a lot of print advertising. Mm-hmm. And every week, and a little trick how I got the word out fast was there were these guides, and one was called HX, Homo Extra, and the other was called Next Magazine. They were like, the gay guides, and they came out every single week, where to go, what was cool, what was happening. So what I would do is, and in the back, they used to have like the ads for the escorts. Mm-hmm. And I knew the guys always read the escort ads. So I advertised my bar on the back by all the escorts.
Hey, that's smart. I can't knock that. That's smart as hell.
Because
that's where they're going. Even if they're reading the front part to figure out what club they want to go to. Hey, gay guys, straight, lesbian, whatever, you strike out in a club, you're going to whatever might cost a few dollars to finish off the night. So you got to go to those ads to read.
So I found that to be the most visible place to put my ad.
That's smart. Do you have somebody that runs your social media for you, or do you handle that on your own?
So we handle it in house because a lot of the kids that we got working there and the drag queens and whatever, that's their night job. During the day, some of these guys work for some of the most powerful, ad agencies and marketing companies and whatever, and they have such great idea with I call it social media manipulation. You know what I mean? And tricks and arranging the wording and tags, and just it helps get the word out there. So that's how we do it now. So I don't pay a company now.
Okay. This show is crime and entertainment, and the beauty part is we mix a lot of these together. So you've covered definitely the entertainment part. Crime, I want to ask, probably by the time you open this, the days of the mob or whatever trying to get their piece of clubs was probably for the most part gone, at least not as prevalent as it was, in the 80s. In the early days when you were coming up in this scene, did you have any presence to where clubs were paying maybe a protection fee or anything along those lines? Because certain areas that you operated out of, a lot of times you did have to kick up to do business in that area. Did you have any experiences with that or know anyone that did?
I knew a couple of clubs where there was, let's just say, a very infamous motorcycle club,
Uh-huh.
that ran all the coat checks.
Yeah.
And you can run your business, everything's about your business, but we'll gladly take care of the coat check for you.
Yeah.
I sat there one time and my friend ran a club where this group ran the coat check. And I was like, Mikey, do you know how much money you guys make? I mean, look at all the coats. He goes, I don't know. I don't care. I don't want to know. Everything's good. It's coats. It has nothing to do with me.
Yeah. There's I'm sure you probably read it, but have you ever read that book, Scores, about the strip club in New York that was infiltrated by the Gambinos? What a story that was.
Twice.
Huh?
I might have been there once or twice.
Oh yeah, I went there when I went. Now I think it would done changed ownership by the time that I went there. What was that a guy's name that ran that? Bluestrick or something? Michael Bluestrick?
I'm not sure. I knew it blew up when Howard Stern really started promoting it.
Yeah. Yeah. Has that been anything that you've ever thought of, like, any sort of strip club or something like that? Have you thought about dabbing in that at all?
Nah, not my bag. You know what I mean? Just from someone who's gone to them, it's just not an environment I'd want to be in every single day.
Right.
Just not my bag of tricks,
So whenever I guess you're like peak time in the night or the weekend or whatever, what feeling do you get when you look out and you see that, yes, this might be a gay club, but you see, like you said, your point that you're trying to drive home is this can be a melting pot to where it doesn't matter. You don't need to be one way or another when you come in there, and there's just a period of time where everybody's having fun and none of that shit matters. Like nothing outside of those doors matter. Do you have those points in times where you're just standing out? I'm picturing you just standing maybe on that second level that you said Madonna rented out and just looking over and just taking that all in.
So yeah, the DJ booth, I would go back there, and we don't let a lot of people go back there just because all the electronics. So I'll go back there because it's crowded and there's no one there. And I just look out, and you look out on a dance floor where everyone's cutting loose and they're not sitting there on their phones. It's like you look at a picture of a concert today, and everybody's either filming it or looking at it. And then you look at a picture of, like, let's just say a Leonard Skinner concert from the 70s, and you watch a video and the people are just like living their best life, having the time of your life. So you don't see that a lot today. So when you have this little world there where you don't have the opportunity because you're doing this to be on your phone, and you see people so happy, it's contagious.
No, I get that 100%. Do y'all have like a cell phone rule or anything like that, or no?
Unfortunately, no. I would like everyone to freaking check their cell phone before they come in because, back in the day when I used to club, you didn't have a phone. I didn't have to worry about someone taking my picture or was I doing the right thing or was I behaving or was my eyes red or was I, you know what I mean? Like now I feel bad for my son. He grows up and you have to live like perfect or else you're ruined.
Yeah, no, you fucking said it, man. That's 100%. I tell my son that all the time. Like, I was able to screw up so many times and do dumb shit, and very minimal people knew about it because you were afforded that luxury back in those days. Now you can't because you fuck up one time, especially God forbid you get arrested. Oh, your mugshot's on 15 different groups. It's on Snapchat. It's blasted to millions of people. You can't afford to screw up this damn thing.
Yeah.
One other question here, and we'll kind of wrap it up, but I'm really interested. There was a club. It was Depps Club, the Viper Room. Remember that?
In West Hollywood or Hollywood?
Yeah. Well, I don't remember. I think it might have been West Hollywood. It's where River Phoenix had OD'd at, outside. I want to say that I'd read because that was a happening spot for a lot of Hollywood kids. DiCaprio was going there, Wahlberg, Diaz, a lot of the, up and comers. Aniston was there a good bit. They had a rule, if I'm not mistaken, because I was doing an episode on that where they actually did not allow photography or any sort of cameras. And this was still kind of the early days of cameras. They're not like they were now where everybody's got one, but people had them back then. And they didn't allow paparazzis in there. So it was like secluded. I don't even think it had any windows in there, which I don't know how they got away with that with the fire marshals and stuff. But it was kind of like a world outside of that where those celebrities were allowed to come in there and be themselves. And it's what you just said. It's almost like now people are scared to do that because of somebody that'll snap a picture. And it really takes away something of the times that were had back in those days. And I think Depp kind of brought a little bit of that back when he opened up the Viper Room. Do you hope to one day get it to where maybe you can do that and not allow the cell phones in there, or at least a certain area of it?
Yeah, there's a couple clubs in Brooklyn. I think the place was called Analog. When you go there, you have to check your phone and they lock it in the bag and whatever. And that's it. Like, and man, that would be amazing. That would be. I would embarrass the hell out of my wife and let her yell at me when I get home. Do you know what you did? Plausible deniability. I didn't do a damn thing.
I mean, the early 2000s was like my big partying heyday. And I tell my wife all the time, like, partly it's, we don't have a lot of photos to look back on and say, oh, we went here, went there. But then again, we have it in our mind. We know what we did. And it was so much fun because there wasn't that, oh, I got to take a picture. Oh, I got to take a selfie. Or I got to do a story. If you take that shit away, you can just have fun, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, I've enjoyed having you on, man. Do you have anything coming up that you'd like to push or tell us where they can go to follow your club on any social medias?
Yeah. So we're having our anniversary party next Wednesday, the 27th. Literally, we're open for 4. We're doing 2 open bars, like one at 10 o'clock for a half hour, one at late night for a half hour. We got a ton of DJs, people who work there, just stop by and jump on the decks. You know what I mean? And then obviously you can follow us on Instagram. It's the Ritz New York. What is it on? Yeah, it's called Ritz New York, RITZ New York. And, we advertise every different night. We have something different. We have a Latino night. We have an African-American night. We have a college night. We have a throwback hip hop night, Brazilian parties, whatever you're into, we got you covered.
I'm going to be up there the day after all that's going down. I'm coming up on Thursday, but definitely, man, go check it out on Instagram. If you're in the area, stop by and check it out. I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed having you on the show, man. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, same here. Thank you so much.
All right, my friend. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am Hollywood Wade, and that was Mr. Greco. And unfortunately, we are out of time. Tune in next week for an all new episode of Crime and Entertainment. We'll see you later on, my friend.
See you, bud. Thanks.